On this year's Europe Day, I would like, first of all, just to acknowledge and commend the EU for its commitment towards gender equality and women empowerment, and specifically thank them for the support that they've provided to the Spotlight Initiative. Spotlight Initiative is a global initiative between the EU and the UN, and actually it's the biggest investment so far between the two institutions globally that is aimed at eliminating all forms of violence against women and girls. In PNG, we are actually lucky that we are one of the countries that is implementing this global initiative. And this global initiative is, like I said, aimed at eliminating violence against girls, women, and children. And we know that violence is such a big challenge here in PNG. And this program is aimed at, actually addressing that problem. It has 6 pillars that we look at. We are looking at legislation, making sure that there is policy and legislation in place to support the fight against gender-based violence. The second pillar looks at having strong institutions that can help address and tackle GBV. The third area is looking at prevention, because it's good, yes, to respond when violence happens, but we have to step up our efforts to make sure that there is prevention and the violence doesn't happen in the first place. The fourth area looks at quality services, so that there are services for the survivors. And the fifth area looks at data. And lastly, the last area is around women's movement and civil society, so that the fight against GBV is also strengthening, or we're using the civil society organizations because of their particular niche and coverage to support the fight against GBV. In Papua New Guinea, the Spotlight Initiative is implemented by 4 UN agencies. There is UN Women, which is the lead technical agency. There is UNDP, UNFPA, and UNICEF. The program is led by the UN resident coordinator, and these agencies work together to provide integrated support to the government and stakeholders. We work very closely with the EU delegation here in Papua New Guinea, and they are part of the strategic decision-making processes in the program. And also, just to take this opportunity to really thank our partners at the EU delegation for the excellent partnership that we enjoy with the delegation led by the ambassador, His Excellency Genet Viditek, His Excellency Viditek. The Spotlight Initiative has been quite a game changer in PNG in the fight against gender-based violence. Let me begin by perhaps highlighting that since 2020, the Spotlight Initiative so far has committed about $15.6 million US. 30% of this funding goes to support grassroots organizations and civil society organizations. So the first thing perhaps to highlight is that this has really enabled support to organizations that are at the community level, grassroots organizations, who are usually the first responders when there is violence. So this Spotlight Initiative has enabled support to such organizations who would ordinarily be left behind. But one of the achievements that we are really proud of is the support that we have provided to the Special Parliamentary Committee on GBV. But as also a result of the Spotlight Initiative, there has been a lot of support towards ensuring appropriate policy and legislation is in place. So, for instance, we have supported the Women's Health and Protection Bill. Currently, we have just concluded the support towards consultations around the Human Rights Defenders Bill. And we also supported the school behavior management policy in schools. Another area perhaps that I can highlight in terms of progress is that, as you know, for us to address violence against women, girls and children, people need to change their behavior. So we need to make sure that there are messages that reach as wide as possible, and through our behavior campaign programs, which is a multimedia campaign program called Changing the Headlines, we have actually reached 2.7 million Papua New Guineans in the country. We have also directly reached about 50,000 people in different kind of programs that are promoting, a positive attitude and challenging traditional practices and behaviors that perpetuate violence. Through our support to various safe houses in the country, about 15 safe houses, over 5,000 survivors have managed to get services in these safe houses. In addition to that, I also just want to highlight that 10,000 children have benefited from Parenting for Childhood development programs. We've had 60 police and village court magistrates who have benefited from support and training on trauma care for survivors. There's a lot of support that has been provided to the youth, for instance. We supported the youth parliament, the youth summit. Last year we convened the civil society, first national sort of civil society forum convened by the UN, which was bringing together different civil society organizations across the country to discuss how they can elevate the fight against GBV, linking them to different partners, be it government, development partners, and other key stakeholders. And lastly, perhaps just to mention that, one of the challenges that we also face in the country relates to the issue of sorcery accusation-related violence. And through the Spotlight Initiative, at least 40 survivors have accessed services relating to, repatriation. So those are some of the progress or results that the Spotlight Initiative has achieved so far. The Special Parliamentary Committee on GBV has played a very critical role in the fight against GBV in the country. And I must thank the chairperson and all the members of the Special Parliamentary Committee. In our opinion, we feel that the work that they've done has really elevated the fight against GBV and has made the issue of GBV to be on the national agenda as well as on the political agenda. We have, as you know, the Parliamentary Committee was set up as an oversight committee and was tasked specifically to do inquiries on gender-based violence, looking at both issues related to prevention and response. And as a result of the various inquiries that they have done and the report that was submitted and passed at Parliament, the committee has actually achieved a number of things. One of the things that I would like to really highlight here is the advocacy that they did around increasing government's own resourcing and investment towards gender-based violence. And as we speak, in the budget that passed last year, 7.9 million kina was allocated to the fight against GBV. So that is one, I think, key milestone which actually which is good because it demonstrates government ownership and leadership, but it's also good for sustainability because these programs like Spotlight will come to an end at some point, and it's always good when the government takes on and continues with the efforts so that the gains that have been achieved are not lost. But I also want just to highlight that, the members of the committee have been quite strong advocates, both in Parliament during the debate, but also outside the debate. And it's been great to see that kind of, political leadership in the country in taking the fight against the gender-based violence. And the work of the committee has also contributed a lot to ensuring that even at the provincial level, the provincial governments take on GBV. There are secretariats that are being set up both at national and provincial level, and all this is important in the fight against GBV in the country. Thank the government for its leadership and engagement in the Spotlight Initiative. We work mainly through different civil society organizations. At least 30 civil society organizations are involved in the program. So I would also like to thank them. There are different other stakeholders that are engaged in the program, from private sector to provincial governments to other development partners, because we have taken a whole of system approach in addressing this issue of gender-based violence. But lastly, then just a very big thank you to EU for their generous financial support that has enabled PNG to register the progress that I was highlighting as part of this Spotlight Initiative.